The night was silent. Only the sound of machines filled the small workshop. The human sat alone, a young engineer with tired eyes. He worked day and night, wires and circuits spread across the table. In his hands he held something strange. A visor glowing with soft blue light, he whispered to himself. If this works, she will see for the first time. His heart beat faster, for he was not building this for money, not for glory, but for one alien girl who had lived her whole life in darkness. Her name was Lyra. She belonged to a proud alien race, tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like stone. But unlike others, her eyes were empty. She was blind since birth. Her people saw her as weak, a burden, someone who should live quietly and never dream. But the human saw something else in her. He saw hope, he saw fire, and he wanted to give her what no one dared, to give sight. Lyra often visited his workshop, guided by sound, by the smell of burning metal and the faint warmth of machines. She trusted him, though she did not fully understand his strange human tools. On this night, she sat quietly on a chair, listening. She tilted her head and said softly, "You are still working, aren't you?" The human smiled and nodded, even though she could not see the gesture. "Almost finished," he replied. He looked at the visor one last time, every wire tested, every lens cleaned. Then, with careful hands, he walked toward her. Lyra heard his footsteps and straightened, her empty eyes turning in his direction. "What is it?" she asked, her voice a mix of fear and hope. He spoke slowly. "This is for you. It may not work, but if it does, you might see." Her hands trembled as she reached forward, touching the smooth visor. She had never worn anything like it. The human helped her place it over her eyes, adjusting the straps gently. The blue light flickered, soft hum filling the room. At first there was nothing, only darkness. Her breath caught, her hands gripping the chair. Then faint, blurry light appeared. Shapes, shadows, outlines of the workshop came to her. Her lips parted in shock, tears forming as she gasped. I see something, light, shapes." The human's eyes widened with joy. He almost laughed, but held his breath. "Yes, it's working. Don't be afraid. Focus," he said, his voice trembling with excitement. Lyra raised her hands slowly, and for the first time, she saw her own. Fingers glowing in blue reflection, she sobbed, the sound breaking in her throat. She turned her head, her vision weak but real, and whispered, I see you." Her voice shook with wonder. The human's heart felt heavy with emotion. Never had he seen such beauty in simple words. But outside, unseen, danger grew. In the shadows beyond the workshop, a figure watched, hidden under a hood. The figure's eyes glowed faintly as he whispered into a small device. "It is true. The human has broken the law." The Alien Council's law was clear. No one was allowed to change the biology of their people. No machine, no invention, nothing could interfere with their natural state. To them, what the human had done was a crime, a dangerous crime that could not be forgiven. Back inside, Lyra stood unsteady, tears still on her face as she touched every object she could reach. The table, the tools, the small glowing lamp. She laughed softly, then cried again, overwhelmed by the storm of new senses. The human watched her, his chest tight, knowing this moment was worth every hour of work, every sleepless night. He whispered, "Now you will never be alone in the dark again." But in his heart, he felt a chill. He knew others would not understand. He knew her people feared change, feared what sight could bring to one who was never meant to see. He pushed the thought away, choosing to enjoy this fragile victory. For tonight, he had given light to someone. Lost in darkness as the night grew colder, the visor's soft blue glow shone like a tiny star in the workshop. Lyra's eyes reflected it, weak but alive, filled with hope. The human sat beside her, watching, not knowing that soon, heavy footsteps and cold voices would come for him, not knowing that this gift of sight would awaken fear, anger, and power far beyond his imagination. Outside in the shadows, the hooded figure stepped back, his voice calm but sharp as he whispered into his device. "Send the soldiers. The human must be taken." The workshop stayed warm, the light still bright inside. But beyond the walls, the night was no longer silent. It carried the weight of soldiers, of secrets, and of danger marching closer. The city was alive with echoing footsteps, tall stone towers rising under the pale moons. In the central square, alien guards marched in silver armor, their boots striking the ground like thunder. Their voices were sharp, carrying through the cold air. "Someone has broken sacred law." Whispers spread fast among the people. Every corner of the city was buzzing, voices low but filled with fear. An old alien muttered, "A human has changed one of us. This cannot be allowed." Another hissed back, "If it is true, the punishment will be death." Far away from the noise, inside his workshop, the human worked quietly, unaware of how wide the rumor had already spread. Lyra sat beside him, visor glowing faintly over her eyes. Her hand still trembled as she explored her new world, touching every tool, every wire, every lamp. She whispered, "The world is brighter now. But why do I feel afraid?" The human paused, his face tense. "Because change always brings fear," he answered softly. But even he could not shake the unease building in his chest. That night, deep inside the alien council's chamber, 12 tall figures sat around, a round table of dark crystal. The room was lit only by torches, shadows stretching across their carved faces. The leader, known as the High Speaker, raised his voice, slow and heavy. "The human has given forbidden sight to one of our kind," he said. Gasps filled the chamber, anger and fear mixing together. Another counselor leaned forward, his eyes glowing in the dim light. "This cannot be tolerated. Our ancestors chose blindness to protect us, to stop the old power from returning." A woman on the council hissed, "If one girl sees again, soon others will want the same. It will destroy the balance." The High Speaker slammed his staff against the floor, the sound echoing like thunder. "Then it is decided. 4 elite soldiers will be sent. They will find the human, they will destroy his work, and they will silence him." The council bowed their heads in grim agreement. A horn sounded deep within the palace, sharp and cold, announcing the hunt. That same moment, Lyra stood outside the workshop, her eyes blinking under the glowing visor. She looked at the stars for the first time, her lips trembling. "So many lights. I never knew they were this many," she whispered. The human joined her, looking up as well. He smiled, but his heart was heavy. "They are beautiful, but dangerous too," he said. Lyra turned her head toward him, her voice shaking. "Do you think my people will accept this?" He looked away, silent for a long time, then finally said, "They should, but I don't think they will." Meanwhile, in the soldiers' barracks, 4 armored warriors stood ready. They were taller, stronger, and more disciplined than ordinary guards. Each wore armor that shimmered like steel fire. Each carried weapons forged for silent kills. Their commander spoke with a voice like cold iron. "The order is clear. Capture the human, take the device, and bring the girl to the council." One soldier asked, "And if they resist?" The commander's eyes narrowed. "Then the law demands blood." Back at the workshop, the night grew heavy. The human worked on strengthening the visor, adding new codes, new safety lines. Lyra sat watching him, amazed not just by what she could now see, but by his endless patience. "Why do you risk this?" she asked quietly. He looked at her, tired eyes but still burning with determination. "Because no one should live in darkness if light can be given," he replied. His words sank deep into her heart, warming her, yet also filling her with worry. Unseen, to them drones moved across the forest outside the city, glowing red eyes scanning the ground. They were tracking signals, searching for the blue light of the visor. The 4 soldiers marched silently behind them, their footsteps leaving no sound. They moved like shadows, relentless hunters closing. In the city, rumors turned into fear. Parents whispered warnings to children. "Do not go near the human, he brings curses." Merchants closed their stalls early, whispering of war and punishment. Some even believed the human had used dark magic, not science. Fear twisted truth into something monstrous. At midnight, the hooded figure who had spied earlier met with the soldiers. He bowed before them, whispering, The human is hidden in the old workshop near the cliffs. The girl is with him. The commander nodded without a word, raising a hand to signal. The advance, 4 glowing helmets turned toward the dark forest path. The hunt had begun. Back inside, Lyra felt uneasy, her new sight still weak but sharper each hour. She stood at the window, seeing strange glimmers in the trees far away. She touched the human's arm, her voice nervous. Something is coming. The human looked up, following her gaze. His eyes narrowed, and for the first time, true fear filled his heart. He rushed to his tools, gathering wires, energy cells, small weapons of his own design. Lyra grabbed his hand. "Please don't fight them, they are stronger than you." He looked at her firmly. "Then I must be smarter." He pushed her gently toward the hidden door in the floor. "If anything happens, you must run." But she shook her head, refusing, her voice breaking. "No, I will not leave you." Outside, the forest grew silent as the 4 soldiers reached the edge of the cliff. Their commander raised a hand, and they spread out like wolves circling prey. The visor's glow inside the workshop was now a target, and in the next heartbeat, the silence would shatter. The human and Lyra stood together, the air heavy with dread. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "They are coming for us." The visor glowed brighter, her eyes reflecting the light. The night was no longer safe, the law was no longer silent. The hunt had found them, and the future was about to change. The forest was dark, branches twisting like claws under the pale moon. 4 elite soldiers moved silently, their armor glowing faintly with red lines. Each step was careful, every movement sharp, like shadows made of steel. Behind them, small drones floated, scanning the ground with thin beams of light. The commander raised his hand. The group stopped. He spoke in a low voice, cold and sharp. "The human is close. We strike without warning." The soldiers nodded, their eyes hidden behind dark visors. They lived only for the law, only for the council's command. Inside the old workshop, the human worked quickly. His hands moved over wires and circuits, setting traps across the floor. He placed small devices near the door, machines that hummed softly. Lyra stood close, her eyes wide with fear and new vision. "They are coming," she whispered, her voice trembling. The human nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we will be ready." He was only one man, no armor, no army, but he had his mind, his tools, and his will to fight, he told her. "When they come, you must hide below, don't make a sound." But Lyra shook her head fiercely. "I will not leave you alone." Her voice cracked, her hands clutching his arm. For the first time, she could see his face clearly, tired but strong. She would not abandon him. The first sign came with silence. The forest animals stopped moving. The nightbird stopped singing. Then the faint sound of boots on soil, slow and heavy. The human's heart pounded, he whispered, "Stay close to me." A flash. One drone slipped through the window, its red eye glowing bright. The human threw a tool, sparks flying. The drone fell broken on the floor. But the sound was enough. The soldiers now knew the exact place. The commander raised his weapon, pointing to the workshop. "Advance," he ordered. The door shook violently as the first soldier kicked it. But before he could step inside, the human's trap triggered. A blast of light and sound filled the air. The soldier stumbled back, armor sparking. Lyra gasped, covering her ears, her eyes burning from the sudden flash. The human grabbed her, hand pulling her back. "One down, 3 more," he muttered. The soldiers were skilled, not easy to stop. Another slid through the broken window, blade drawn, moving fast. The human swung a heavy pipe, striking the soldier's helmet. The alien stumbled but recovered quickly, his blade cutting sparks from the wall. The human dodged, sweat pouring, every movement desperate. He shouted, "Lyra, stay down!" But Lyra could not stay still. Her visor glowed brighter, energy pulsing through it. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, she saw more than shapes. She saw the soldier's movements before he made them. She cried out, "Left! Now!" The human turned just in time, avoiding a killing strike. His counterattack smashed a tool into the soldier's chest, sparks flying again. The alien fell hard against the table, stunned. The remaining two soldiers entered together, weapons raised. Their presence filled the small workshop with deadly power. The commander's voice rang like thunder. "Surrender, human, your crime is unforgivable." The human stood tall, though his chest heaved with fear and exhaustion. "She is not a crime," he shouted back, pointing at Lyra. "She is alive. She deserves more than darkness." The commander's eyes glowed under his visor. "The law is older than you, older than her, older than your fragile race. It will not be broken." He raised his blade high, stepping forward. Lyra screamed, "No!" At that moment, the visor on her face pulsed with strange energy. A burst of light shot across the room, shaking the walls. The soldiers froze, stunned by the force. One was thrown back against the door, his armor cracking. The other staggered, trying to hold his ground. The commander narrowed his eyes, his voice low. "The power has awakened." The human stared at Lyra in shock. He had built the visor only to help her see, but now it was more. Much more. It was unlocking something hidden inside her. Something her people had buried long ago. Lyra fell to her knees, gasping, her body shaking. With the strange energy, the human rushed to her, holding her shoulders. "Stay with me, focus, don't let it control you." Her eyes glowed faintly through the visor, tears streaming. I don't understand," she whispered. The human held her tight, whispering back, "Then we will understand together." The commander stood tall, his voice sharp as steel. "She is no longer just a girl, she is a weapon. We must take her alive." He signaled the other soldiers, though two were already weakened. They moved slowly, but still with deadly intent. The human placed himself in front of Lyra, ready to fight again, even against impossible odds. He would not give her up. The air grew tense, the workshop shaking from the visor's energy. Lyra's breathing grew deeper, her hands glowing faintly as if power spread from her heart. The human's eyes widened, realizing this was no simple invention. This was the beginning of something much bigger, something dangerous. And now both of them were targets, hunted not just for breaking law, but for awakening power that could change everything. Outside, the night wind howled through the forest. The hunt was not over, the battle had only begun, and in the shadows more soldiers were already on their way. The workshop burned with light, walls shaking as if the air itself had turned alive. The human held Lyra tightly, her body trembling, her visor glowing like fire. The soldiers stood frozen for a moment, unsure if they were facing a girl or something far greater. The commander raised his hand, signaling the attack. Two soldiers rushed forward, blades ready, armor sparking in. The strange energy. But before they reached her, a burst of force exploded outward. It was not from the human, it was not from any machine. It came from Lyra herself. The soldiers were thrown back against the walls, their weapons clattering to the ground. The human stared, heart racing, his voice shaking. "Lyra, what are you doing?" But she did not answer. Her eyes glowed through the visor like stars breaking through endless night. She raised her hand without meaning to, and the air bent. Metal tools lifted from the table and hovered. The soldiers struggled to rise, their armor groaning, their voices filled with fear. The commander stepped forward, his voice sharp as a blade. "This is what we feared. The old power is alive again." He pointed his weapon at her, his eyes burning with anger. "Remove the visor, or you will destroy us all." The human stood in front of her, his arms wide. "No, she is not your enemy. She is not a weapon. She is a person." The commander's voice thundered. "You are blind, human. Her people gave up sight long ago to bury this very power, and you, with your foolish invention, have unleashed it again." Lyra clutched her head, pain and light swirling in her vision. She saw flashes not only of the present but of something older. Ancient battles, cities burning, her people walking away from fire with covered eyes. The memory was not hers, yet it lived inside her blood. She screamed, falling to her knees. The human knelt beside her, holding her close, whispering, "You are not alone, I'm here, stay with me." The commander gave the order, his voice cold. "Take them both." The soldiers rose again, weak but determined, blades drawn once more. The human reached for a hidden device under his table. He pressed the switch, and small machines burst into motion, flying like metal insects. They swarmed the soldiers, sparks flying as they tried. To cut them down, it was only a distraction, but enough to buy time. He pulled Lyra toward the secret hatch in the floor. "We have to go now before more come," he urged. But Lyra shook her head, her voice breaking. "I cannot control it. I will hurt you." He gripped her shoulders firmly, looking straight into her glowing eyes. "Then I will stand with you until you can, no matter what." They dropped through the hatch, the passage dark and narrow. Behind them, the commander smashed the machines aside, shouting in rage. He looked down the open hatch, his voice echoing. "Run, human. Run as far as you can. But the law will find you, and when it does, no shadow, no cave, no star will hide you." The tunnel led into the deep forest, roots hanging low, damp earth pressing against their hands as they crawled. Lyra gasped, struggling to breathe, the visor flickering with unstable light. The human carried her part of the way, whispering encouragement. Above them, distant horns sounded, the alarm spreading across the city. More soldiers would soon be, hunting. They reached the surface, stepping into moonlight. The forest was alive with whispers, as if the trees themselves watched them. Lyra looked around, vision still sharp with strange energy. She whispered, "Everything glows. Even the air glows." The human frowned, his mind racing. The visor had unlocked more than sight. It had awakened senses beyond human understanding. They stopped near a river, the water glowing faintly from the energy still spilling from her. The human knelt, trying to calm her. "Focus on my voice, focus on me. You are in control, not the visor, not the power." Lyra's hands shook, but she nodded, holding onto his arm like an anchor. Her breathing slowed, the glow dimming slightly. "Far away," the commander reported to the council through his device. His voice was grim. "The power is real. She has awakened it. The human has made her dangerous." The high speaker's voice answered, deep and heavy. "Do not kill them. Bring them alive. The council must decide their fate." The commander bowed his head, his eyes burning with cold resolve. Back at the river, Lyra leaned against the human, her voice soft. Why did my people hide this power?" He shook his head slowly. "Because they were afraid of it. But fear cannot erase what is inside you." She looked up at him, her glowing eyes filled with both hope and terror. "If they find us, they will kill you," she whispered. He smiled faintly, tired but unbroken. "Then let them come, I will not leave you." The night grew deeper, the stars bright above them, but under the surface the world had already changed. The human thought he had built only a tool to give sight, but now he realized he had opened a door to something much greater, something that could save a people, or destroy them. In the distance, the sound of marching echoed through the forest. Torches burned between the trees, shadows moving closer. The human pulled Lyra to her feet, his voice steady. "We keep moving no matter what." Her visor glowed, again faint but strong, and with every step, the hidden power inside her grew. The forest no longer offered safety. The glow of torches lit the horizon, and the sound of soldiers grew louder with every breath. The human held Lyra's hand as they ran, her visor flickering with unstable light. She stumbled once, her knees weak, but he caught her quickly, whispering, "Don't stop, we are almost there." Hidden beneath the cliffs was a ship, small and old, a machine he had rebuilt piece by piece over years of work. Few knew it existed. Fewer believed it could even fly, but now it was their only chance. He pressed his palm against the lock. The door hissed open, steam rising. He pulled Lyra inside, and the door sealed shut behind them. The ship groaned as the engines came alive, trembling like a beast waking. From deep sleep, Lyra clutched the chair, her eyes wide. "We are leaving the world?" The human nodded firmly. "If we stay, they will kill us. If we run, maybe we find a way to survive." Outside, soldiers reached the cliff just in time to see the ship rise, fire bursting from its engines. The commander shouted, "Bring down the craft." Weapons fired, beams of red cutting through the night. The ship shook violently, alarm screaming. The human gritted his teeth, forcing the controls. "Hold on!" With a burst of speed, the ship shot into the sky, breaking through the atmosphere. Clouds tore apart, stars opened above them, and the endless dark swallowed everything. The planet shrank below, silent and cold. For the first time, Lyra saw her world from above, her eyes filling with wonder. So small, yet I thought it was everything. The human's hands shook over the controls, sweat dripping. The ship was not built for battles, but for escape. Yet even in space, they were not alone. 3 warships detached from orbit, their lights shining. Like predators in the void, a voice cut through the comms, sharp and merciless. "Surrender the girl, human, or be destroyed." He shut the channel quickly, his jaw tight. "They won't stop. Not now. Not ever." Lyra gripped the armrest, fear burning in her chest. "Then where do we run?" He pointed ahead, his eyes fierce. "Anywhere they cannot follow." The ship twisted between asteroids, metal scraping as rocks struck the hull. Lyra gasped, holding her visor as it pulsed with strange energy. Suddenly, her vision shifted. She saw paths between the asteroids, safe ways hidden by shadows. She whispered urgently, "Left, then down. There's a way through." The human glanced at her, doubt in his eyes, but he followed. To his shock, the ship slipped perfectly between the stones, avoiding certain destruction. Her new sight was no longer only for shapes and light. It was showing her paths that did not exist to normalize. She panted, trembling. "I don't know how I see it, but it's there. I can guide us." The human's heart pounded, realization sinking in. It's not just sight. The visor unlocked something deeper. Behind them, the warships roared, weapons blasting, but each time the beams drew close, Lyra whispered a direction, and the human moved the ship just in time. They slipped past one trap after another, surviving. By a breath still, the chase did not end. Hours passed in the void, the stars endless and cold. The human adjusted the ship's failing systems, smoke rising from broken panels. Lyra sat in silence, her glowing eyes filled with both awe and sorrow. "They will never stop hunting us," she whispered. He looked at her, voice steady. "Then we keep running until we find a place where their law cannot reach." But even as he said it, a message came through hidden channels. A voice neither human nor soldier, low and strange. "You cannot escape forever. Bring her to the High Council, or all will suffer." The message ended abruptly, leaving only static. The human's blood ran cold. "They don't just want you dead, they want you captured alive." Lyra's hands tightened on the chair, her voice small. "Why? What am I to them?" He looked at her with a mix of fear and wonder. "More than you realize, more than they can admit." They reached the edge of known space, stars thinning, silence growing heavier. The human powered down the engines, letting the ship drift. For a moment, the chase seemed distant, like a nightmare fading, but Lyra's visor pulsed, showing her visions of fleets gathering, armies rising. She whispered, "This is not the end. This is only the beginning." The human sat beside her, exhaustion heavy on his shoulders. He placed a hand gently over hers. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Her eyes glowed softly, her voice trembling but strong. Together. Far behind them, the warships turned back, their commander speaking to the council. They escaped, for now, but their path is clear. They cannot hide for long. The High Speaker's voice was calm but dark. "Do not destroy them. Bring them before us. The truth must be revealed." The stars stretched endless around the small ship. The human and Lyra sat in silence, their bond stronger than fear, but both knew the chase was far from over. They had escaped the planet, but not the law, not the soldiers, not the secret power now burning inside her. And in the silence of space, the future waited, vast and dangerous, ready to test them again. The drifting ship floated in silence, stars like frozen fire outside its windows. The human worked on the controls, his hands stained with oil and burns. Beside him, Lyra sat still, her visor glowing faintly, her mind heavy with questions. For days they had escaped, but now fuel was low. Food was thin and hope was fragile. The human tried to hide his worry, but his tired eyes betrayed him. Lyra reached out, touching his arm gently. You gave me sight. But what if that gift only brings death? He looked at her, his voice soft but firm. Sight is never the curse, only the fear of it. Before he could say more, the comm sparked alive. A deep voice filled the cabin, slow and commanding. You cannot run forever, child of the old. Blood, the council waits for you. The human froze, his chest tight. Lyra's hands shook. They know where we are, she whispered. The voice continued. Surrender, and the human may yet live. Resist, and both of you will be destroyed. Then silence returned, colder than before. The human's mind raced. The council did not want to kill her, not yet. They wanted her alive. Why? What secret did they guard so fiercely? He clenched his fists, muttering, They fear you, that means you are more powerful than they admit. Soon after, the stars around them shifted, space itself rippling. A fleet emerged, massive ships surrounding them like walls of iron. Their tiny craft was caught in a tractor beam. Dragged helpless toward the flagship, Lyra held his hand tightly, fear burning in her glowing eyes. The human whispered, Whatever happens, stay strong. The ship was pulled into a vast hangar, surrounded by soldiers in perfect lines. The human and Lyra were dragged out, their hands bound by energy cuffs. Crowds of armored aliens watched in silence, their eyes filled with suspicion and anger. They were led through endless halls of stone and fire, until at last they reached the chamber of the council. 12 figures sat in a circle, their bodies tall and stern, their eyes hidden beneath carved masks. The high speaker raised his staff, the sound echoing like thunder. The human and the sighted one stand before judgment, his voice declared. The chamber shook with whispers. Lyra stepped forward, trembling but unbroken. Why do you fear me? She asked, her voice trembling but strong. The high speaker leaned closer, his voice low and heavy. Because your eyes are not a gift, they are a key. Long ago our people chose blindness to bury what those eyes could awaken. Lyra gasped. Confusion twisting her face, the human clenched his fists. You blinded an entire race him to hide the truth? Another counselor hissed. We blinded ourselves to survive. Our ancestors burned cities, destroyed worlds when they looked too far. Sight gave us power we could not control. Lyra shook her head, tears forming. You call it protection, but it is chains. You made us live in darkness, fearing ourselves. The high speaker's voice grew louder. We survived because of it. Without the blindness, war would rise again. And you, girl, with your human's invention, have broken the seal. The chamber filled with tension, guards shifting, soldiers gripping their weapons. The human stepped forward, his voice fierce. She is not your enemy. She is proof that your people can be more. You buried the past out of fear, but fear is no future. The council roared in anger, their voices rising, but the high speaker silenced them with his staff. He looked at Lyra, his tone dark. You are dangerous, child, more dangerous than you know. The power inside you can bend reality. It can destroy stars. It can break worlds. If you lose control, none will survive. Lyra's hands trembled, her visor glowing brighter. The human stepped closer to her, whispering, Do not listen to their fear. Listen to your strength. You are more than what they call you. She lifted her chin, her voice shaking but filled with courage. Maybe it is time my people decide for themselves if they want the dark or the light. The council erupted in protest, their voices clashing like thunder. The high speaker slammed his staff again, his mask hiding his fury. Then let the people see her. Let them judge if she is a savior or a curse. But know this, human, your life rests on her choice. The human's eyes narrowed, his heart heavy. He knew this was no simple trial. It was a game of power, a battle of fear and hope. Lyra stood tall, though her knees shook, her eyes glowing with untamed energy. She whispered to herself, If I must fight for them to see, then I will. The guards led them away. The people already gathering in the vast city square. Whispers spread faster than fire. The sighted one, The cursed one, the girl with the human. For generations they had lived in darkness, but now curiosity and fear burned together. The council's secret was no longer safe. As the crowd grew, the human stood beside Lyra, his voice steady. They fear you because you are change, but change is what makes history. She looked at him, her eyes glowing softly, her voice breaking but strong. Then we will show them together. Far above, the council watched from their high chamber, their voices low. If she convinces them, our power is broken. If she fails, both she and the human die. The high speaker's mask gleamed in the torchlight, his voice a whisper. One way or another, the future will be decided here. The square filled with thousands, silence falling like a heavy curtain. Lyra stood before her people. The human at her side, her visor glowing like a star. The choice was no longer hidden, the secret no longer buried. The moment of truth had arrived. The square was vast, filled with thousands of silent figures. The air trembled with whispers, fear mixing with curiosity. For the first time in generations, the people had gathered not to follow, but to judge. Lyra stood at the center, her visor glowing like a star against the endless dark. Beside her, the human stood, bound but unbroken, his eyes sharp with defiance. Above them, the council watched from their high balcony, their masks cold and unreadable. The high speaker's voice boomed across the square, deep and heavy. Behold the sighted one, the curse awakened by human hands. She is proof of why we chose darkness, proof of why fear keeps us alive. The crowd murmured, some nodding in fear, others frowning in doubt. The human stepped forward despite the chains, his voice carrying through the silence. She is not a curse. She is proof that your people are more than fear. You blinded yourselves to escape power. But hiding never makes power vanish, it only makes you slaves to your own past. The guard struck him, but his words had already reached ears, already stirred hearts. Lyra trembled, her glowing eyes sweeping. Across the faces before her she could see doubt, pain, longing, all hidden under years of silence. Her voice shook as she cried out, I was blind all my life. I was told I was weak. I was told I should stay quiet, but now I see and I tell you this. Sight is not a curse. It is freedom. The crowd stirred louder, some gasping, others whispering. The council shifted uneasily, their control slipping like sand through their fingers. The commander of the soldiers stepped forward, blade in hand. Enough words. She is dangerous. The law demands blood. He raised his weapon high, stepping toward the human. Lyra screamed, her visor blazing. A wave of energy burst outward, knocking the commander back into the stone wall, his blade shattering. The people gasped in shock, some retreating, others staring with wide eyes. The council roared in anger, their voices clashing like thunder. This is what we feared. This is why the law cannot break. She is chaos. She is death. But before Lyra could collapse, the human caught her, his voice steady. No, she is life. She is change. And you fear change because it takes away your power. His words echoed, striking deep, and for the first time, the people's whispers grew louder than the council's voices. An old alien in the crowd stepped forward, his voice trembling. All my years I have lived in darkness, afraid, and now I ask, why must I die without ever knowing what the stars look like? Others shouted, why should we not choose for ourselves? The whispers became shouts, the fear turning into fire. The council slammed their staffs, desperate to silence the storm. The high speaker raised his voice. You fools, sight brings war, sight brings death. We survive because we obeyed due, not betray the sacrifice of our ancestors. Lyra lifted her head, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, her voice breaking but strong. Our ancestors chose fear, but we can choose hope. We are not chains to the past. We are voices of the future. The square erupted, voices shouting in agreement, drowning the council's commands. The soldiers looked uncertain, some lowering their weapons, others stepping back. The council's power was crumbling, and they knew it. The high speaker pointed at the human, his voice filled with fury. This is his doing. One human has poisoned you, one human has broken us. But the people roared back. No, he gave her sight, he gave us choice. The council panicked, calling for guards, demanding silence, but silence did not return. The people no longer obeyed. The square burned with voices, the law of fear broken in a single night. The human looked at Lyra, his voice low but filled with pride. It was never about me, it was about you. You showed them what they truly are. Her eyes glowed softly, tears falling as she whispered, "Not alone, never alone, together." The soldiers hesitated, then one by one, they stepped back, refusing to strike. The commander rose from the rubble, his weapon broken, his voice heavy with defeat. "The law is shattered, the people will not follow us now." The council realized their end, their masks cracking under the weight of truth. They shouted for order, but no one listened. No one bowed. The people turned their eyes upward, for the first time seeing not leaders, but liars. The high speaker's staff fell, the sound sharp in the chaos. He whispered bitterly, "One human changed everything." Then the council fled, their power gone, their secrets undone. The crowd surged forward, not in anger, but in awe. They looked at Lyra, their first sighted one, their symbol of freedom. Some wept, some laughed, some simply stared at the glow of her visor. For the first time in generations, they felt choice, not chains. The humans, chains were broken, the guards no longer bound him. He stood beside her, tired but unbroken, his voice soft. "They will need you now, more than ever." She turned to him, her voice trembling. "Then they will need you too, because without you I would still be blind." Together they stood in the square, light breaking the darkness, the people's voices rising like a storm, not of fear, but of hope. A new world was born that night, not by counsel, not by law, but by sight. And in the heart of it all stood one alien girl and one human, proof that a single act of kindness could change the destiny of a race.